We have a challenge before us right now in Alabama where we have a great deal of lost revenues, for example. My wife, for example, is a kindergarten teacher, has been teaching kindergarten or elementary education for about 23 years. In Alabama, we're going into proration, a reduction for education system, reduction in budgetary processes for education. And my wife is going to be directly affected, and her students are going to be directly affected. This is going to have another indirect impact on our job situation that we have in Alabama. In Alabama, we have approximately 250,000 people who are either unemployed or they're seriously underemployed. And this proration in the education system is affecting the families and the students, the teachers, and the education system within Alabama now, and it's going to be a long-term effect. We are looking at that from my campaign standpoint, that it appears that the stimulus that was originally provided to the states by President Obama was not sufficient enough to carry us the length of what this recession, this deep recession that we've entered into. So it looks like, from Alabama's standpoint, that we're going to need additional funds, stimulus funds, from Washington to the states to be able to hopefully make it through this devastating recession that we've encountered. What type of effect does this have on the citizens of Alabama? It has a direct, immediate, and long-term effect on the citizens of Alabama. From, like I said, from the standpoint of education, it's going to be felt for many years. We have that 250,000 people who are unemployed or they are seriously underemployed, who do not have the means to be able to support themselves or their families. That in itself is having a ripple effect into the education system. Now, my opponent, Richard Shelby, has been evidently tightly involved with the Republican Party of no. Mr. Shelby has consistently voted no, no, no to everything that President Obama and his administrators have tried to do, not only for Alabama, but for the rest of the states. For example, unemployment compensation. Whenever the unemployment compensation insurance was to be extended for this latest time period, which extended it into, if I recall correctly, about 2 years or 2.5 years worth of unemployment benefits, Mr. Shelby voted no for that extension. For the aid to states to help teachers, the school systems, firefighters, police officers, the aid to states, Mr. Shelby voted no for that extension of aid. For the reform on Wall Street, the legislation that was generated to reform Wall Street, Mr. Shelby voted no for that reform. He has constantly and consistently voted no for every stimulus package that has been put forth to the Congress of the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, that's just totally unacceptable. Unacceptable. And the people of Alabama, the ones that I have been encountering, have basically told me that enough is enough, and they won't change. They want change not only in Alabama, but they want change in Washington. Now, I understand that change in Washington is difficult to come by, but there are ways that we can effect change. And one of those ways is November the 2nd. I've been asked about term limits for our United States senators. My response to that quick question about term limits has been that we do have term limits. We do have term limits in place. Every 6 years, whenever you have an opportunity to go to the polls, you can elect not to send your representative back to Washington to represent you. But that's not been the case with Senator Shelby. So Senator Shelby has been elected for 4 6-year terms, and he's now asking for a 5th term, another 6-year term. And it's time that Alabama can now express their views and desires regarding whether or not all Alabamians, whether they are Democratic, Republican, or Independents, or whatever party that they may be affiliated with, whatever association they may be affiliated with, whether or not they want to send him back to Washington for another 6-year term. That's part of our democratic process and how we operate and what holds us together as a nation.